Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome to the round 3 of the Norway Chess Masters in 2023. We're starting now this round with the eternal derby between Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen. So the first classical time format game they played ended with a draw, which meant they had to play the so-called Armageddon game. Let's see now what happened. In my opinion, very a brutal game. It was really a bloodbath because of the choice that Hikaru Nakamura played in the beginning without revealing anything. Let's see now what happened. Really wild stuff in this beautiful match game. So here Hikaru opened with the move e4. Magnus' response was e5, and now Hikaru goes all in with the king's gambit. So it's a great choice, I think, for all chess lovers. Spicing up the game like this, we miss a little bit the romantic area of chess. You see now with the move f4, we have reached a position that's not so often played now in top grandmaster level, but with the development of top engines, of course, you can also pull off an immortal opener like this. So let's see now how Magnus is handling the king's gambit. So Magnus accepted the gambit with the move e takes f4. We have knight to f3, we have g5, and now after move h4 we have the move g4 passing through, attacking the knight, and now after move knight to e5 we have now the so-called Kieseritzky gambit. The knight is very active here in some of these lines. It's even possible to sacrifice the knight on f7, so be careful when you play the game with the black pieces, so you could get destroyed by the beautiful knight activity. So in the game, Hikaru got challenged with the move d6 here by Magnus. We have knight takes g4 by Hikaru Nakamura, and now knight to f6, which basically forces now a trade of knights, which is a good choice, I think, here for Magnus Carlsen. The knight is very active here. If you retreat, of course, to f2 or h2, then the pawn on e4 saying so far you're pretty much forced to play the move knight takes f6, and after move queen to f6 at least Magnus is coming out with the queen with the tempo, which is a good choice. The queen is now activated, protects now this annoying pawn on f4, and there are of course still several darker weaknesses in Hikaru's position, but the position is about equal. But now Hikaru missed, I think, the best line here. He played a slightly passive move d3, which is not so good. I'm not saying this is now causing you the whole game, but knight to c3 is of course more natural. At least you're attacking the queen immediately with the move knight to d5. For instance, if white continues with his aggressive method with the move rook to b8, then knight to d5, look at this, queen to d8, knight to f4. So it's one of the possible lines. Of course, white, black doesn't have to play the game like this, but it would be, I think, much better here for Hikaru to develop the knight first. So d3 played by Hikaru. Magnus develops now, queen to f3. Again, Hikaru has the opportunity to play knight to c3, knight to d5. Missed this chance, played now again queen to f3, and now Magnus protected simply the pawn on f4 and is preparing now bishop to e6. Maybe queenside castling is a possibility. Afterwards, of course, rook to g8, attacking also the weak pawn on g2. So now queen to f2 by Hikaru, rook to g8. Now comes knight to c3, and now Magnus controls the d5 square with the move bishop to e6. We have bishop to d2. Here Hikaru is also preparing queenside castling, and now Magnus plays queenside castling. But maybe here also a better choice would have been the move bishop to g4. Bishop to g4 would prevent, of course, here Hikaru Nakamura to castle. Now, if, for instance, knight to d5 happens, then the pawn on b2 is hanging. So this would be maybe a slightly better continuation here from Magnus, but still, queenside castling is aggressive enough, especially because of the fact the rook will be activated. This rook is very active. So in this fast time format games, I think it's more important to play solid chess than just to calculate everything, because you don't have time, of course, to calculate everything in this position. So Magnus made, of course, the natural move, queenside castling, securing the king. Now the pieces are dancing, so still a slightly better position here for black. So in the game, we have now queenside castling also by Hikaru, queen to d4 by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus would love now to go into a simplified line, would love to reach now the endgame stage, but here Hikaru plays now the move queen to e1, although maybe trading off here was slightly better, or maybe staying with the queen on this diagonal, because Magnus had also now the opportunity to maybe activate the queen further here on the queen side, but Magnus played queen to e5 and centralized the queen, and still again slightly better position for black. You have a great control on dodge squares, you're controlling the d4 square, f4 is now well protected. Now basically what you're trying to do is to break and enter here with the move f5 or with the move e5. So now comes again maybe one of the critical moments of the game. Here Hikaru played knight to e2, in order to reroute the knight, in order to activate it, further challenging the pawn on c5, maybe in some lines even to play the move bishop to c3. Now Magnus had, I think, here great chances to, I think, even brutalize immediately Hikaru, but he missed the better choice. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for black. It's not, again, a winning idea immediately. It's not a winning move because you play this move, but it's a better continuation. So choose between d5 and f5. That would be my choice. So choose between the red pill and choose between the blue pill here, as I always like to say. Look at this. Maybe you can choose between both of these aggressive lines, d5 and f5. Are, of course, the common ideas, because we don't want to tolerate, of course, our pawn on f7 here as a backward pawn, and d5 is also, I think, a natural idea to break your answer. So what would you play, d5 or f5? Okay, Magnus played, in my opinion, the more natural idea, f5. You want to get rid of finally of this double pawn structure on the f5, but a better way to go is simply to play the move d5, because if something like, I don't know, bishop to c3 happens, then you have always this resource to play the move e5. Look at this. Or maybe something like g3 happens, then we play bishop to g7. We're threatening here even a checkmate on b2, bishop to c3, and now e5. So pardon me, d4. So it's much better to control the center with this pawn. f5 seems really tempting, but actually it's not working, because now Hikaru plays the move g3. The bishop is a little bit loose here on h6. We have f takes e4, and now after move g takes f4, this comes of course with the tempo. The queen drops back on f5, and now knight to g3 here by Hikaru, kicking away the queen, and now Magnus creates now this annoying battery here on light squares. And now comes maybe the most critical moment of the game. Here Hikaru messed up the whole game. I think here Hikaru has, of course, the opportunity to play, I think, knight to e4, and this is pretty solid. Maybe you have opportunities to jump with your knight on g5 afterwards. If you trade off here bishop to f4, maybe you can play something like a3, and I think this is pretty solid. The material is equal. Maybe black has a slightly better activity, but in top grandmaster level, I think this should end with a draw. But Hikaru spiced it up really with a bad move f5, and now Magnus is not missing his chance. He plays bishop to d2, rook to d2. Notice that the queen is now overloaded to the defense of the knight on g3. This is important because after move bishop to d7 and king to b1 that Hikaru had to play in order to protect the a2 pawn. Now comes another idea here. Look at this. Knight to e5. Now Magnus is really playing in his best form here. He's taking over, and now the game becomes basically a one-way ticket. Look at this. Knight is centralized, threatens the move at knight to f3. And the problem is, as we said, you cannot get out of this mess with the queen on e2 or something, because the knight is simply attacked here by the rook. So the position is basically collapsing, I think, from this point on for Hikaru Nakamura. So that's why Hikaru played the move queen to e3. Now we have e takes d3 here by Magnus. But again, whatever you do, bishop to d3, then bishop to c6 is going to happen. You have a weak square on f3 with the support of the bishop, and the knight will be very dangerous. The e file is already opened, so rook to e8 is going to happen. So the queen is in danger. The knight is loose on g3. So again, really tactical mess here for Hikaru. So here in the game, Hikaru played c takes d3. He wanted to somehow maybe even challenge the knight with the potential move d4, but again, it's not working. Bishop to c6 by Magnus, knight to e4. Hikaru locks now the long diagonal. Magnus improves simply the position of the king. We have bishop to h3, rook from d to e8. Look at this. The rook is coming now in a beautiful way into the game, and now another blunder here by Hikaru. Rook to c1 is simply not working because Magnus had the immediate tactical possibility here with the move knight to d3. Look at this. Rook takes d3, bishop to e4. You have to step back. Bishop takes d3, queen to d3 is, of course, winning the exchange, and from this point on, the game is over here for black. But Magnus played a bishop to d5. Magnus missed this tactic with the move knight to d3, but still, even in this scenario, look at this. The pawn on a2 is weak. This is really devastating for Hikaru to handle. In the game, he tried now rook to e2, because now this tactic knight to d3, queen to d3 is not working. Now the rook is protecting the knight on e4, but after move bishop to a2, the position is again falling apart, but in a different way. Magnus had maybe the opportunity to seal the fate a little bit earlier, but even in this position here, black is much better. King to a1, Magnus drops back. We have knight to g5, attacking the queen, but still the queen is now very dangerous here on light square. So in some of these lines, I think you can get even checkmated if you don't play the game correctly with the white pieces here. So that's why Hikaru controls the square a4 here, not allowing here dangerous checks. Queen to b5, we have king to b1, knight to c6 by Magnus Carlsen, kicking away the queen. After a couple of trades of rooks, the queen draws back to c3, and now bishop to b3. Magnus is preparing again this idea, queen to a4, and then queen to a2. So that's why knight to e4, played by Hikaru, getting a new defender into the game. We have queen to a4. The Hikaru creates, of course, breathing spaces for the king. The king wants now to escape maybe towards the center, but now Magnus plays brilliant chess, knight to d4, using the principle of the last piece that's not participating in the attack. Whenever you feel that you have a great tension, look where one of your pieces is maybe not participating in the attack. Now with the move knight to d4, Magnus is controlling the c2 square further. We have now bishop to g4, bishop to c2, king to c1, queen to a1, first a check. The king has to now drop back here to d2, and now queen to f1. Queen to f1, Magnus is winning the exchange, because after queen to d4, now comes another stunner here by Magnus Carlsen. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. Pardon me, for Magnus here for black. Black is winning the game with a simple tactic. So take your time, maybe solve this mini puzzle at the end of this game. Okay. Here Magnus played the brilliant move bishop takes d3. If you play queen to d3, then queen to f4 is simply winning back the piece, and it simplifies the game enough for black here. Then black is winning for sure. After move bishop to d3, knight to f6 was played by Hikaru Nakamura, and now another stunner here by Magnus. Magnus played a beautiful rook to e2. Really wild stuff. If you play here bishop to e2, then of course queen to e2 is winning the game. You have to play king to c3. Queen is coming very dangerously into the game. You can play maybe something like here, but then c5 is, for instance, one of the lines that is winning for sure. If you play something like king to d3, then you have the zigzag motif. We deliver a couple of checks. Again, if you play here king to d3, then again it's a beautiful checkmate. If you drop back in any of these cases, maybe here to after maybe check, king to d3, you can maybe also play king to c3, but it doesn't change anything. Again, this fork idea with the move c5 is winning the game here for black for sure. So incredible game, incredible choice by Hikaru to play the King's Gambit with white pieces against such a strong player like Magnus Carlsen. But this is simply their different world, I think. Magnus and Hikaru, of course, are the top grandmasters of these days. They're really the most popular players, and I think this game will also be written in chess history books, because Hikaru played this dangerous opening, got punished a little bit, but we have to say it. You see how dangerous this position can be. Magnus made inaccuracies, mistakes. Hikaru made also, but you see, I think in the next couple of years we could expect more King's Gambit games, especially because of the development of top engines, because they're showing you some lines that maybe have not been played before, and then you can maybe have a surprise element in preparation in top grandmaster level. It's, I think, a tough opening. Try it out sometimes just for fun. If it's working for you, maybe you can also try it in classical tower format games, because basically no one expects it. Probably Hikaru wanted to also have a certain surprise element here, but Magnus is covered everywhere. Magnus has really great theoretical knowledge, and that's why he deserves this win today and has now maybe better chances in the tournament, because still it's going roughly here for Magnus. He's not playing here best chess so far, but I think in the next couple of rounds we can expect here Magnus Carlsen to shine in this beautiful chess event. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really interesting ideas of the King's Gambit. Really wild stuff. If you want to see more games from this event, check out our coverage. Here are some games that we have analyzed before, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what they say, chess is the best, of course.